Meep, Morp, Zarp, Robot.
I think there's an aha supposed to be in there, and that translates to I love you.
All right, yeah, that was pretty it's pretty on the nose there, Springs. Hello everybody. Welcome back to the Cheap Seat Critics podcast. Uh Today we're covering Brooklyn Nine-Nine, season 1, episode 1. If you haven't been clued into what the season is about, we're covering pilots.
Yeah, on episode 6 here.
Yeah, we're episode 6 of the season, episode 1 of the pilot, the season or the show. Hello everybody. I'm one of your hosts, Yukiki Rider.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Sprinks, and last week I brought up Grandma's coverage, so why don't you go get your cat or your neighbor's cat and let them know that, hey, you look up Cheap Seat Critics podcast on the interwebs, you'll find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We got visual sides on YouTube and Rumble, and we have a letterbox if you're interested in the mathed out graphs we have.
Well, then, well, uh, I'm not sure I have much history for this one, to be honest with you guys. I got the director's name, being Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, for at least the pilot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But I don't know if I have many facts. Do you guys have any facts you'd like to throw in before we go into
Well, I
histories?
have a question
Uh,
for that fact, actually. Crimson,
All
you're
right.
not great with names. Do you recognize who
no.
those two people are?
What was it again?
Lord and
Uh,
Miller?
yeah,
I've
Phil
heard the
Lloyd and
names.
Christopher Miller.
Oh, yeah, I know
Phil
the
Lord.
names. I don't know what they're connected to though.
Okay. I believe we've covered one of their things on the podcast so far, which was Clone High.
Oh,
Yep.
They also did the Lego movie. They did Cloudy with the Cheese Meatballs. I think they did Mitchell's versus Machines.
well, lots of stuff you like.
And one thing I don't. So,
Well, I'd say all things you like.
Uh,
I have no additional facts.
All right. Well, I guess we'll go into histories then. Springs, why don't you start us out?
sure, I've seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine here and there on like TVs in passing. Of like, I can recognize it because it's Andy Samberg playing a cop, which I think is just identifiable. Um,
With Brooklyn Nine-Nine, yeah.
Yeah, so I pass, I see that, and I'm like, okay, that's on TV, but I've never like watched it, never got into it. Um, Ryder showed me the pilot when we lived together for a while, and he's like, oh yeah, we'll just watch this. I'm like, oh, okay, so I sat down and watched it with him. I can't remember much of it. I think I was very just middle ground with it at the time, and then I watched it for the pod.
All right. Crimson.
Okie dokie. History, not much. I always thought that this was like a generic cop show with little sprinkles of humor. I didn't actually think it was like a comedy. So that was a surprise going into it. I've seen a couple Holt memes. I can't remember what any of them say, but I just picture him on the images. And my sister has seen this and has recommended it, but I've never watched it. And I've seen it once for the podcast, the pilot.
Oh, you're due. I thought everyone would have had a little history with it outside of the memes.
No,
Because even I sent you Captain Holt memes every now and then.
yeah. So
Uh,
very, very limited, and I didn't fully understand what it was. Thought it was like NCIS and stuff like that.
all right. Fair enough. Uh, all right. Well, we're just going to dive right in. We're going to be doing a linear for this one. Because I said I don't really have much trivia or other knowledgeable facts other than stuff to be pointed out as kind of throwaway jokes in the show.
I have a question.
Did you say your history?
Yeah, did you
Oh,
say?
yeah, my history. That's probably important. My history is I've seen the pilot a couple times now. I've seen most of the show at least once. I think I've seen all the show at least once. I have seen up to a certain point a couple times. I remember stopping around season 4 or 5, and usually not continuing because usually something else captures my interest because it's very hard to watch entire shows these days. But yeah, that's my history. It got introduced to me on from one of my family members who thought I would enjoy it.
All right.
So, all right. With I guess we'll start with the opening scene since we're going linear. Haha. Jake is the main character is doing a bit on being a serious cop, while Amy is trying to solve the case. So, does anyone have anything to say on this scene?
Has
Is
anyone seen
Jake?
Donnie Brasco?
I know it's answered later, but this to me portrayed that Jake is a rookie.
Um, Interesting. I didn't read it like that. I saw him more as like a carefree character, kind of the connected to another cop ship, Castle. Even though Castle himself is not a cop, similar vibes between them and the how they like to have fun with stuff. But I can definitely see what you mean by viewing him as a rookie, though. I didn't see that going in.
Did you get the what gave you the impression he was a rookie? Out of curiosity, Springs.
Of how laid back he was in a active crime situation, but not. I don't know if it's to play off that he automatically knew coming in that a nanny cam worked and was present, or he spotted it to begin with. That's why he acted so silly or could be playful around everything because he kind of already saw his answer. Um, so I guess it's just an act of confidence in him, but I know that's of Jake because it's explained later that he's the best detective and's been working a lot. So I that's just who he is. But for me as a rookie of like still trying to
You haven't
figure out
seen.
like nervous habit kind of thing, trying to have fun in the situation, try to get a feel of how your partner's going to bounce it back to you and whatnot, and test the waters kind of thing for a first introduction, anyhow.
It could be yeah, for first introduction, it could be it's definitely they're playing off of the they're doing a joke about him being a serious cop pretty much. And then obviously they're cutting to him having already solved the crime, and that's why it's partly why he's so laid back, as you said. I think it would have been a problem for character morality if he hadn't already figured out uh the robbery.
Well,
I agree.
he figured it out, but was it also a guess? Like, what if like nanny cam, was active, but what if he didn't know? What if he grabbed it and it wasn't on or it didn't work?
Oh,
Well,
well,
he
he
already
says he
looked through
checked
the
all the cameras in the
footage.
store.
Oh,
He
yeah,
explicitly
Right.
said he checked all the cameras in the store, so
Yeah, and he said it was three white guys, one with a tattoo, uh, before even revealing
the nanny
the
cam.
fuzzy bear.
yeah.
So yeah, he
So
already had it all figured out. This was just to placate um,
that's just Amy.
So this
San-
would be his second
Santiago.
time to the crime scene.
Well, he was just there before her.
No, yeah, he said he's there 15 minutes before her, so he had that time to check all the cameras in the store, and
Oh,
while doing that, he
okay,
came across the Nightcam.
okay.
Yeah, so he it works because he as an introduction, I think, because it's a subversion him being a not serious character, or at least not taking the situation seriously, but it's because he already solved the crime, you know. And I guess it eases us into kind of his what's something that could be attributed as being more callous, which is he's kind of already nonchalant with crime scenes when he's can figure stuff out, and it does bite him in the other pilot. So I like that.
Yeah, he's very confident in his abilities overall, and obviously in this instance, he already had it figured out. So it's kind of past confidence, and it's already happened type deal.
Yeah,
Uh, but in terms of me recognizing people, other than him already uh, being recognizable, um, Pertala. What would you say his first name was? I just had Pertola on my notes.
Jake.
Peralta,
Peralta.
Jake. Okay, Jake. Obviously, he's a famous person. He's well recognized. But the store owner, either of you recognize him?
No.
Nope.
He was a person of interest. Shocker. For you guys there.
Oh, that
He was.
I haven't covered that yet. Got it.
No, well, I mean, you made it that far in the show yourself. Throwing it out there.
If he was a one-off character, I probably don't remember him.
Mhm.
As we
Uh,
know by now, it's a talent that Crimson has.
it's true.
I know faces.
Uh, then we go over to the 99, their headquarters,
Oh,
and we
I
learn
still
some
had
back.
more at the
Oh, you
department
do. Go.
or
Sorry.
the store. Sorry, I didn't know we were jumping to there yet. There was a continuity error within the store, as we have Jake playing on the keyboard, and then he just teleports to the TVs to talk about the nanny cam. And you could say, oh, maybe he walked over there, but no, we have a shot of Santiago, and you'd see him walking behind her to get to it, but that never happens. He just teleports.
Unless he ran all the way around left hand behind the camera to get to the right.
Which would be funny.
Wait, you got me
Uh,
there. But I don't think they'd even have the time for that either. Okay.
yeah, this is a they have a very tight filming schedule, so I imagine continuity
It's a
error
good
makes sense.
catch.
Good catch. So does teleportation exist? Possibly.
Yeah, is that
Um.
established now?
Uh.
And I think they do a good job here with Santiago and Jake. I like their dynamic this entire episode. Spoilers
Yeah.
for my thoughts with these two, but I think they do a great job just here with their banter, especially with the Fuzzy the bear.
Yep.
You can already tell he's into her, and she probably is into him, but doesn't want to confront those feelings yet. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Good dialogue, and all those things are kind of built upon during the episode as a foundation for just this opening scene for the two of them, and
Now I'm done with
possibly
it.
the rest of the series. uh. No, well, I guess, do you have anything to say about the opening scene, Springs? Anything more?
Um, I guess right. It ties into like right getting to the precinct. It plays off how competent they are at their jobs with getting 2 points, because as soon as we get to the precinct, they already have those 3 guys apprehended, but we don't get to see how they found them. Just that they were able to identify them.
Yeah, which is, it's just life in the business. So I appreciate it. It's very quick, but it does establish how good they are at their jobs.
Yeah, we don't technically know how much time passed either from
That's true.
him
No,
solving it with the cams and then them actually arresting them.
we just
Could
know
have been
the
like
rest.
2 days or something.
Them present at the station is 8:31 in the morning.
Yeah, but we don't know that in relation to the story,
No,
the movie. So could be a couple
which
hours. Could have been a week of
Crimson, you're
finding them.
tickling on. I think the biggest issue I have with this pilot,
Okay, time.
time.
Is that something you want to hold on to or bring
Well,
up now?
going linearly, I'll get to the point where I noticed it as a situation.
There was an egregious part for
Yes,
you. Okay.
Okay. Uh, and then they arrive at the precinct. I'm a little sad that the opening was not in the pilot episode, because I actually quite like the opening for Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Well,
We have
oh, the intro.
it's a pilot, so it gets this like pseudo kind of opening. And then I guess we'll move over to the briefing scene. If anyone got any notes for that.
I think it was here in the briefing scene that I picked up that this is handheld. I guess is the word I have for it, but it's like Modern Family. Um, what's the other? The Office. That kind of camera work used.
Parks and Rec. Yeah.
Park
Yeah,
documentary. Yeah.
yeah. Which
Ye-
to me, this didn't have it as harsh. I guess is Modern Family to me is very harsh with how it has that very lot of movements, not a lot of like
Yeah.
steady, not landscaping, but like just identify identifying room or characters, or just like being,
Establishing
yes,
shots.
thank you, establishing shot and being steady in a certain scene, which I think this did far better than those examples.
yeah, I'm in agreement overall. One of the things I don't like about Modern Family was that, because it bugged the heck out of me. Which is funny, because I think another series that does like the documentary kind of handheld stuff very a lot was Battlestar Galactica, and that's where a lot of my familiarity goes with it. Um, and
Yeah,
that they take it to the nth degree in that show as well, but again, it never really, I guess, strays into point of absurdity.
yeah, I was gonna say Battlestar, a little too much for me for the
Yeah,
at
that
moments
Battlestar
for
is
the
probably my is kind of the one I would pick where they chose that style and it doesn't fit the setting, but they make it work to fit the setting.
Yeah, like Battlestar isn't a comedy, is it?
no,
No,
Yeah,
no, it's quite serious.
so that is a
yeah,
difference. All the examples listed so far of sitcom comedics.
yeah.
Mhm.
Battlestar is heavy with the human drama, which is why they chose to do it that way, and they just kind of stuck it with it. Um,
Yeah, with this one's handheld uh, visual, I guess. I'm pretty sure it's artificial handheld.
So
Didn't
it's
know
all
if
edited
Sprint
that way. You're
stocked that
saying
or not. Yeah,
could be
uh,
because again,
I'm
this one
pretty
stands
sure it
out
was.
more so than the other examples. So that could be that it's actually edited to look that way rather than actually handheld that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just a thing you can more get a vibe on than any technical thing that I know. But I can't verify it. I'm not sure 100%. Just felt like it. We get the whiteboard competition. They got the bet, and the I don't really know what the whiteboard was. It had a bunch of names on it, but it didn't seem to really connect to any of um, the robberies or any crimes that they're investigating. It was just a bunch of names, and then they had the little corner with their game, which I like I said, I think it really builds up their dynamic very well. The fact that he was like, "Yeah, I'm winning," I'm like, "You were already winning. You were already at 23 to 22."
yeah,
But
yeah.
uh,
That's why it's funny.
Plays into the character of Santiago writing the 24 smaller.
Yep, a lot of little character things. So Uh, yeah, I think the with the going from like the competition stuff and Jake making Amy do it, it really does play into the dynamic. I quite love that their interactions as well. I don't actually have much to say on the scene outside of the what comes in the black comedy a little bit later.
well, it also shows the department how close they are because they're all happy and celebrating and kind of laughing at Santiago having to embarrass herself
Yeah,
to do this. Really builds up the family dynamic of the department here.
found family. I like it.
Yeah, the
I'm always
uniform that they have.
yeah. I'm a sound suck. I'm a
Yes, their
sucker for
uniform.
that sort of thing. So it works.
They don't have the uniform yet.
Yeah.
Well, they
Almost
have the so-called uniform they have now before Holt.
there. Yeah,
Yes.
the lack of a uniform, having a uniform.
Oh,
Yeah, they have the Emperor's robes currently, and then Holt steps in.
yeah.
McGintley's uniform.
Yeah, and if you haven't picked up on it, if you don't pick up on it in the scene where he's giving the briefing on the murder case, um, it's very obvious what Jake's main character flaw is, uh, which is not taking anything seriously.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean that's something they spell out with Terry when he's just
yeah,
listing off
well, yeah,
everybody's
when he starts
traits.
listing off character traits, yes, but they do set up both Santiago's character traits and Peralta's character traits before we even get to that. The same with I think they do a little bit of everybody actually. I think the only one that doesn't really no, everybody gets gets their character traits set up before Holt arrives and gets we get the list pretty much in case you had missed well, pretty much what they were showing beforehand.
Yeah, I guess
So,
those I forget their name, but the group of three that I
uh
just wrote Terry Crews, but Terry Crews identifies like they do their job, but they're not important at least now.
oh, yeah, Scully and Scully and Hitchcock. Scully and Hitchcock.
Yeah, like they're
Uh
they're present in the episode, but they're not focused on.
funny since you brought them up. They actually, in when they're brought up, they're shown with another detective that does not appear in the show ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, Scully, Hitchcock, and Daniels. There you
Yeah,
go. Those names.
Daniels doesn't. Yeah, Daniels doesn't make an appearance ever again.
Oh, guess he got fired with the new new
Yeah,
captain.
I guess so. Um, but yeah. So yeah, that's all I got for this scene. Other than the new captain's coming in and Jake is feeling kind of under pressure because of it.
Well, yeah, the briefing he was giving was of a murder of Henry Morgenthau. And did anyone recognize that last name and connect it with anything?
Morgenthau?
Yeah,
No.
it was tickling my brain, and I had to look up stuff. Maybe the name Carly Morgenthau from Falcon and Winter Soldier, the redhead herself.
Oh,
Suppressed memory.
yeah. Why would I remember that?
I don't know.
Glad you
It
made
was
the
killing me. Like
connection.
Henry Morgenthau, who I know that name. I know that name. Also, Henry Morgenthau is actually a historical character person, apparently, but
Yeah.
Harley.
Uh,
And the old person gunk was an amusing joke. I liked it because why do old people have gunk? Sometimes
yeah,
funny
it's it. That
observation.
one felt the. It felt real because it's we've all seen it.
I've seen it at least once, I would imagine.
Yes.
Uh,
I have a question to throw out there with what we
all
have
right.
seen so far with Jake. When it questioned me when he says meet Morp Zeep in his robotic tone of what he thinks Holt will be like. And then when Holt asks him to say it again, he says meet Morp Zarp and does not go with Zeep, so it's not what he previously said. I didn't know if that goes off of his memorization of being a detective, if that's flawed, because what we've seen so far of his detective work is having other devices get to the case for him for the
Uh,
nanny cam.
I don't have an issue with him misremembering an off the cuff robot impersonation.
I don't. What's your issue, Springs? Or you just don't know where to take the
He
character
got
As
trait?
he got the
being
door
Yeah, as
wrong.
being the best detective having a flaw in memory.
That's not a. No, it's just more awkward because Holt is just standing there listening to him now, so he's not as enthusiastic about it. So I don't. I don't think that that's a memory issue. I just think it's just him being awkward because he's doing it in front of everybody now, or in front of Holt.
Okay.
And let's say
Because they play on that
he
later with
forgot.
Holt.
What do you mean?
That Holt calls him Meat Morp when they're at the crime scene later on in the apartment building.
Okay. Uh, you've
So
lost me on
Holt.
that point. What's the point for
Yeah,
that one?
yeah. Please repeat.
I see that as Holt having a higher memory function than Jake, and Jake being
Okay.
identified as best detective, even though that's out of the words of Terry Cruz's character.
Maybe I'm just attributing something more extreme than what you're implying, but it sounds like if someone forgets one thing, they automatically have a bad memory or a worse memory. Is that what you're going with?
For an introduction, yeah.
Okay. Then I fundamentally disagree with you. It is even high functioning individuals can forget tiny things like saying Zorp uh, instead of the other one. See, I don't even remember what it was, and you just said it because it's not relevant information. It doesn't help him solve a crime. It's not something he needs to remember. It's a passing thing.
Okay. Okay, so the believability of the character to do so is functioning and works fine. But the reason of the writing to go with that is to play off of what? Of his immaturity?
I mean, that's why
There's a
the
lot of
joke is
that.
there to begin with. But if you're going with why he can't remember as a part of the writing choice for the character, uh, They just I don't see it as an issue.
Okay.
For all we know, it could have been unscripted. That happens too when they're making comedy shows, and
That's
they
true.
just rolled with it.
Hmm. All right. It
Don't
also could,
think I have something. Oh, good.
well, also not just memory, but also could be crack under pressure.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'd be more leaning towards if you're looking for
Well, if you're
why
going
he's
for
freaking
awkward
black.
pressure, yeah, that would be why he wouldn't remember. But that doesn't make Jake have a bad memory. If that's what you're trying to pull out of this, Sprix.
Um, See, bad memory is too strong of a term of what I'm meaning, and that's not what I'm meaning. I think it's plays into a detective that isn't a traditional use detective, because I think if the beginning scene showed more detective work out of him identifying things than just using the Namican as an answer because he found it, would play more into that, because I'm sure he has far more experience of other crimes and situations. I mean, for sakes, it was he's on 24 arrest found, so he has so many other examples, but the one they chose to go with is something solving it for him. So to me,
Well, no,
that just goes into our introduction of Jake is this detective that's not shown to be really detecting all that much in a crime scene or investigation going on and using devices. So when it came to this memory situation, I being that he stops on Zarp and isn't Zeep what he said previously, but he doesn't like try to regain his memory and go, no, that's not right, or someone corrects him, or it could lean into the more cracked under pressure. But I saw that as a belief in him thinking that's what he said prior.
I mean, in terms of the showing his proficiencies with deduction at a crime scene, he didn't just find the bear and be like, "Oh, there's a camera here." It was stated that his thought process was, "Oh, we're at an electronics store. There's got to be cameras," and then he went and checked every camera, and then found a hidden camera in a teddy bear. There was him thinking about it, looking around, and then discovering it. It wasn't just he tripped on a teddy bear and found the camera. There was actual thought involved in it, from what they said.
Okay. And that's the story he gives Santiago when talking in person, which is after the fact
Yeah,
of the nanny cam.
yeah. Don't really have a reason to believe that is a lie. Because
No, no,
if he
not a
wanted to
lie.
lie, he could make it more showboaty and
Yeah.
make it even more impressive.
But even was that just showboaty to her? I mean, it was already showboaty just answering the question, like just answering it without explanation.
Yeah, but I'm saying if he really wanted to lie and embellish, he could. But he
Yeah.
so
And
we do get some of his detective skills through his words. We don't see him do it, but I don't have reason to just distrust his explanation.
Okay. I wanted to put it out there. I don't say this is a flaw in any means to Jake as a like a character flaw. I just see that it is a this is a choice done for the introduction of the character and the situations of relationships that we see in the pilot.
with Holt
I mean,
specifically, in your original interaction
Yes.
with the robot stuff.
Yeah. Like that was chosen for him to do that.
Hmm. I would agree with that.
I kind of agree with what writer said that there is the improv aspect too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just
So
goes
I
on to
agree that
uncertainty.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I agree with that they obviously intended to him having be caught doing the meat more absorb thing, and then getting it wrong when, or quote unquote getting it wrong when Holt is making him do it again, because he was doing it nonchalantly. So, um, all right. What do we think of Holt's introduction?
very good. I was Santiago. uh, Immediately loved his character. It was great. Showed how assertive he was, how confident. Didn't take Jake's nonsense, and even played with him. showing there's a light side to him for his own amusement. Uh, I don't think there's anything I would change with what he said there.
That was a terrible impression. uh, yeah, I obviously the intention of the show from the pilot is to obviously show how Jake bounces off of his more serious counterparts, being Santiago and now his new captain Holt. Um, and yeah, I think the introduction to Holt is pretty strong. And Holt wants him to wear a necktie, and then makes his announcements to everyone and introduces himself pretty much.
Speech. That was my speech.
Pretty straight. There's definitely the beginnings of a something there for Amy as well, because she ends up really respecting Holt. Um, Spoilers for the show, I suppose, but
You can kind of tell she's
yeah,
really liking him. She says it herself.
pretty much,
Uh,
yeah. So it's not
I think
spoilers; it's just
yeah, it
uh,
continues.
I
You
do.
you
We did skip
pitched it
over
to
one.
both of us, right?
Yeah,
Sparks, what were your thoughts on Holt's intro?
It was fine. He was very disciplined, very stood out from the rest of the crowd.
we did skip over a couple things. I'm just going to briefly highlight to see if you guys have your thoughts on them. We skipped over the quick flashback to the previous captain, uh, who saw them do the what's it called?
Fire hydrant derby race.
Yeah,
Fire extinguisher.
fire
Uh,
extinguisher derby race, and we also skipped over Charles going to Gina for advice.
yes, for scalping for the Rihanna tickets.
Yeah,
Uh, Sparks, you want to go first? If you have anything on any of those,
Don't have anything.
okay. I think the inclusion of the flashback for Captain McGintley was a good choice to contrast with new strict Holt, and really kind of establishes why everyone's so crazy in this department. That they're characters. There's not really any normal people here that we see. Well, no, Terry's not that normal either with what we see of him. Uh, so that they're all a little off, and having a laid back captain can explain away that.
exaggerate this. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I agree
so
with
I
that.
think it was good to include that. And then the Rihanna stuff, I think it's fine. I
Yeah,
I like. Go ahead. I'm
yeah.
talking
Sorry,
more.
I'll add more onto the bit between Charles Gina on getting advice on Rosa. I think it shows. This is one of those things that also sets up other character traits before they're essentially listed off by Terry, scary Terry. Um, but I'll be upfront right now. I think Gina is the only person's comedy I don't like, even though I recognize that it's technically well written.
Yeah, if I was to put her on a tier list with all these other characters we got so far, she would be towards the bottom, I think.
Yeah, I think
Comedy for me.
yeah, that's pretty much my opinion with regards to Gina. I don't enjoy her comedy all that much, but I understand the jokes that they are trying to do with her, and they I think they succeed in doing with her. It's just not my kind of comedy.
Yeah, I mean, the funniest part with her for me was I have 6 conditions and he shuts her down, but that's mostly because of Holt. He
Yeah,
made that funny.
and then he's the little bit of a gay vibe is also set up.
Yes, it is. I did not notice the paper in the background. I'm not a
Uh,
detective.
it is there in his office, so it is there for us to kind of look at when we are in his office at certain angles. But they don't really focus in on it at all, so it's you can be forgiven for missing it.
Did you see it, Springs? Well, actually, you said you saw it before, huh?
Yes, but
Yeah.
I had no memory of retaining any of this, of the pilot.
Okay. So did you catch the paper then,
Nope,
or
I
not?
did not.
Yeah, it's pretty small. It is in the background, so it's there. It just we don't get a zoom in up close of it
Yeah, I
until
don't know if you can
Jake is
even
putting it
read
all
it.
together. No, we can't. We can see the pretty much the title of it and the image of Holt. That's pretty much it. But you can't really. It's quick and you can easily miss it. So it's not really you're not really meant to see it until Jake puts it all together, pretty much. But it is there, which is a detail I like. Which is it's better than it not being there, I guess.
Yes.
Um, I think we can move on to just Terry and Holt talking about everybody's character traits since we've hinted at it.
Mhm.
So I'll describe a scene and then we can go into it if you guys have any notes about it. Uh, Holt is giving Terry is giving Holt everybody's basic traits, and we're cutting away to see like those traits in action, more or less, of why he's describing them in such a facet. Uh, and I think that adds to Terry's descriptions of all the characters.
Yeah, they're all accurate. Just so I
So
don't talk it all away, Sprinks, did you do you have anything for?
I just wrote down that Rosa Diaz is the April Ludgate of this show.
Yeah,
I did not understand that reference.
I
That's
had the same thoughts.
Aubrey Plaza's character in Parks and Rec.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, the deadpan humor character.
Yep, they definitely fill the same archetype, I think. Because there's archetypes when it comes to comedy. I think they share it. Uh,
This was also one of the two parts watching this that made me smile at humor. So way to go! It's I find it funnier than Beth Cooper. Um, when Terry's in the department store and he jumps and shoots the mannequin, I found that funny.
yep, and it's character
Okay.
supported too, which is great. Uh,
Yeah, I immediately thought of Get Smart when I saw that scene when they're doing the paintball training.
that's
Except
kind of
he's
funny.
not a scared little girl when he's doing it. He's insulting people in that one. But
Yeah,
visual comparison I made.
fair enough.
Yeah. With the description Terry's providing, yeah, I think they do a good job with the cutaways. They maximize the 22 minutes of this pilot. I feel like every second is utilized here for either the establishing the characters, or it's mostly the establishing the characters. They don't focus too much on the actual crime, but it's all used well, I think.
It's a very simple crime. They get more. You obviously get more complicated crimes as the show goes along, but I think focusing on a simple crime allows them to focus more in on the characters.
And the scarf joke I found was amusing as well. Tell me who the Secret Santa is. Funny, funny stuff. Good, solid. As you can tell, the humor meshed well with me so far into this.
I think that's why it's been recommended to you.
Because I like
um,
Arrested Development and Parks and Rec, and there's some similar vibes in this.
mhm.
Oh, Arrested
um,
Development. Yeah, they also do that camera thing.
Mhm.
I forgot about Arrested Development. I watched the first two seasons of that show because of Crimson's recommendation.
Three.
I watched the first two seasons.
Oh, thought you
The
watched
third
three
season is the
because
time
three
jump
was
one,
the good
right?
one. No, that's four.
Oh, then yes, I have seen three because I remember I got to the time jump season and I stopped.
Yeah,
Uh,
great show. Not this show.
yes. Uh,
This is Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
uh, so after getting the breakdown from Terry, Holt says he wants to start with Jake because Jake's the best detective, and as Terry puts it, the only puzzle he can't solve is figuring out how to grow up. Um, which tells you everything you need to know about Jake. Either being so callous that crime doesn't phase him, or he's just childish. Which is you can go
Well,
either way in the pilot.
it's interesting that you characterized Holt picking Jake as he's the best detective to start with. I saw it more as he saw him as the problem child. he goes for the
Oh,
challenge
yeah,
first.
I meant to say yes, sorry. I didn't mean to phrase it that way, but yes, you're right. That is also
Oh,
how I see
okay.
it. That was poor phrasing on my part. Um, then they're at the murder scene. Does anyone have any notes on this?
Sorry,
I
essentially, you have something.
Yeah, there's something I spotted that I thought would have been really cool detail, like a background detail that they didn't use, which was Jake wants Charles. Well, there's the joke of Jake being like, "Oh, well done," and gives Santina a tie, and then Charles is like, "That's my tie." And it's like, "Very well," and gives Charles a tie and says, "Everyone put on ties," which to me implied that Jake wants Charles to put on a second tie because he's already wearing one. But being that Charles is already wearing a tie to get go, and then Jake says, "Now everyone be sure to um, put those on because it's impossible to solve crimes unless you're wearing a tie," which is a jab at Holt. But being that Charles is already wearing a tie, I thought that would have been a background play that Charles is the one to solve the case,
Oh,
which
I see what
didn't
you're saying.
happen.
Um, if
And
that's what they were going for, that would have been clever.
yeah, I didn't see it as going to wear two ties. It was more, this is his property, and he's earning his property back. That's
It
pretty
is,
much
but
the whole
Jake's
plot.
response of now everyone put on when he only gave it to two people, and one of them's already wearing one.
Well, it's a streamlined line. Said everyone except Charles put on their ties. It's a more of a clunky line to to add that.
Yeah, obviously, the intention of that is obviously the jab at Holt.
Yes.
True. But then that goes into why he even gave that second tie to Charles. If it's just to be with you answer a question right, you get a tie.
Yeah, that's
Why wouldn't that be?
legitimately. Sorry, Crimson, go.
No, I said why wouldn't that be enough?
I don't know, it just kind of goes into a jerk move of Jake then. If he has the ability to give out ties, but then chooses to give someone who already has one, with the uncertainty that Charles, being that his own, wouldn't give out his own ties on his own, that he'd give them back to Charles, but then tells everyone to put on ties when he had the ability to give ties to those who don't have it. Like to me, that
I
plays
mean,
out that he's purposely downing his teammates with his ability to give them a tie with that comment.
okay. I don't know how to tackle that one. Kind of got lost halfway through that explanation.
So you
I mean,
see, you see,
he
Like
is
so
a
it's
you
first
see
jerk.
like
this.
if I had a gun and Ryder had a gun and Crimson you don't have a gun. And then Ryder goes, "Oh, is that a handgun?" I'm like, "Very well, it is a handgun." And I give it to Ryder, who now has two guns, and then I look at Crimson and say, "Hey Crimson, shoot that person." Because that's how you're going to kill him. Like
Yeah, but
that
these are
kind of thing. Like
ties, and he doesn't see them as serious. He sees them as jokes. He doesn't care about the ties. He's making fun of the ties. Doesn't matter if someone doesn't get a tie. And I agree, he is a jerk. That is a trait of his. He disrespects people. That is something he does. So I'm not going to deny that as a trait.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I have any issues with that. Even if it was intentional, he's being a jerk to people and not giving them ties. It's still within character. But his
Yes.
intention in the scene is to make fun of the ties themselves, not necessarily the people getting them as rewards.
okay, I saw it as like it's overly a big jab at Holt because it's a whole difference in him that he doesn't like. But it's also not caring about the feelings of his whole team or department of how they feel about the situation. Where it could be a sign of like protecting them or like just putting the tie on the counter or whatever. Maybe that's why I gave to Charles. It's like if it's really that important, you get it from Charles now that he has an extra. I guess it would be worse if he had a bunch of ties and were withholding them for those who are actually worried about the dress code.
Well, I suppose even if they're not, I mean, they were not his ties to begin with. Uh,
Yeah, but that would still, to me, be more of a jerk move if he's actually taking ties from Charles to hide. That way, no one's going up to Charles saying, "Hey, do you have a spare tie?" And they're gone. And it's like, oh, Jake's actually deliberately taking these because of Holt's comment.
Sure. Yeah, that can be a jerk move. I don't know why anyone would go to Charles for extra ties, but if that scenario happened, I guess.
Yeah. For me, it would be that he's the only one wearing a tie.
Well, I mean, during Terry's explanation, he's a good cop. He's just slow. I forgot the words he actually used for
He's a
Charles.
grinder.
Hard worker.
So
He's a
he's
hard
he's not
worker.
he's not intelligent, but he's one of the hardest workers there.
Yeah, he's a muffin head.
It's funny because a muffin makes him hit his head on the counter.
I've stepped on my muffin.
All right. Uh, I don't
Six
know if I.
thousand dollar hand.
We also learned that Holt likes to follow his detectives out on the scene, so he is not a pencil pusher as a captain. He will go out into the field if he needs to,
That's
It's
good. He's
another
not a
pencil pushing robot.
desk job. He actually has
yeah,
field work.
which is a nice character trait to add on to Holt. And he also happens to, cast Jake making fun of him again.
Super hearing. I was expecting him to retort after he said, "Yeah, man, he has super hearing," and him just saying, "Yeah," while going down the hallway or something. But they didn't do
Can't give him too many inhuman abilities. uh, I think uh, we have Charles asking Rosa out. I think it's funny because they say Rose is hard to read, and they kind of just roll with that.
That's true. That is true.
Uh,
And she is. She's hard to read.
She doesn't like Citizen Kane.
He's
Pick
like
a good movie.
Charles, poor Charles. I had to find a better movie than Citizen Kane, which is a good joke to make. It's pretty funny.
Yes, for all the people that think Citizen Kane is peak cinema.
It's up there for a lot of people. So that's a joke that even if you don't like Citizen Kane, you understand why it's there.
Yeah.
And if you want our
Uh,
answer to that, put it in the comments.
yeah,
That was very
Yeah,
aggressive. I'm
because I
sorry.
haven't seen it. Yeah, I don't think you scared him.
It wasn't a
Cool.
scare. It was an encouragement, a community build. Okay.
yeah. Uh, so, do we have anything less to say on this crime scene?
Other than the motive is about ham, $6,000 ham.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. $6,000 a lot. Is it enough to kill a random person over? Well, what was the connection between him and Rat? What his name was?
Radco.
Ratco.
Okay. The connection was is that they had heard that they had picked up this ham, pretty much. I think that was
Yeah,
the connection.
okay, that's what I was thinking, which made me think it was dumb. Just breaking into someone's house for $6,000 ham is pretty weak in terms of motive for me, especially for like a pilot. You'd kind of want a more intriguing crime than
Yeah, like I
just,
said,
oh,
they
this guy broke in to steal ham and kill this guy.
yeah, like I said, obviously the intention is doing a quote unquote lame crime to let the characters kind of show off a bit in the sense of like they're on the characters are on display for the rest of the series, so you know what you're getting into, that sort of thing.
Do you think
Um,
it's just too silly? Like the characters are all
yeah,
silly in the world, and then the plot of what's happening is silly, so it's a little too much.
It's just no, it makes sense to have a silly crime with it, and I wouldn't entirely call this a silly crime. It's just the guy lacks a motive for murder. I can see him stealing a $6,000 ham,
but it
but
went right to murder.
murder. uh, I think they needed to justify the murder part of the motive because you could be like, oh, he broke in while the guy was there. They fight, and then he kills him, which is, I think, what they were implying happened. But that just feels so weak for me. I don't know. I don't know if that's more subjective or an objective thing. It seems like
Um,
it's off.
I can definitely see it. if I were to ascribe that to an objective point, I could definitely see that being a plot thing, like the plot being uh, it wasn't carried through properly, if that makes sense. No,
Yeah,
that doesn't
because
make sense.
oh,
Uh,
they didn't have to make it a murder. It could have been a theft because they opened with a theft crime. This could have just been a theft of the ham. They didn't have to kill the guy, but I think that would make it better. That would also help with the humor of the guy, I think, a little bit more as well. Of a rat guy,
Ratko.
Ratco.
Yeah, I don't know if and to kind of go on to your larger point, Springs. I don't think the world is too silly. I mean, police deal with minor issues constantly, ranging from everything.
Oh,
So
yeah, absolutely. No, no, no. It's again into the thing I talked about Jake earlier. It's like everything could occur in situations, but what they chose to start us off and begin by introducing the show in the pilot
yeah,
is it too much?
I think they're maximizing the potential for comedy, which I get. I don't know. I don't
Like
know if it's too much.
even Crimson, what you
It's
just said,
just
the case of murder. Like, is that too far of an extreme over a ham of a silly concept?
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was
Well,
saying. I think the murder's too not justified within this crime. I think
yeah.
if they
The
just
what
made this a
Crimson
theft, it would be better.
Yeah, what Crimson's saying is it lacks the motive to make it murder. Like it lacks a strong motive to make it murder. The motive is there, but it just lacks a compelling one.
Yeah, because the motive is he went there to steal it, and they fought, and he killed him because he got caught stealing. It's just it's not great. There's no personal connection with the guy he kills. It's just an accidental murder, maybe. I don't know. How did he die? Was it gunshots? I don't remember.
I think it was gunshots.
Uh, There was a scuffle.
Yeah.
They described the
Yeah.
scuffle.
Yeah,
I don't
Santiago
remember.
said it was 2 shots, 2 bullet
That's right.
casings were found.
So he came here intending to steal ham and brought a gun in case, instead of
It's
just waiting for the
Brooklyn.
guy to leave the apartment.
It's Brooklyn.
He probably he
Ton of
probably
people could
bought
have
it in
guns.
self defense. Yeah. He probably brought the gun as self defense. Him having a gun to begin with doesn't bother me. Um, but I can agree with your I guess you wanting the motive to be either more compelling or wanting it to just be theft.
Yeah.
I think either of those can service the story we have. I unfortunately, out thinking about it, it's probably more subjective. But then again, that's because that's not literally what we have. It's what we want to happen. If that makes sense.
But yeah, that's what I'm trying to. Like I said, I'm on the fence of whether or not it is or not. I'm trying to find a definitive. Hopefully, I'll find
Yeah.
something by the end of the
Yeah,
pod.
I think it can lend it to the what would be objective about it is maybe tone deafness, but I don't know if that would work, as an objective critique of it.
Mm.
I think there are some prime examples of that later on with the rat coast scene at the store.
Yeah. In terms of the crime scene, I don't think I have anything else.
Uh, Springs, do you have any last thoughts? Shall we move
Not with the
on?
crime scene. No.
All right, then we jump to. I think they're all talking at work now, so like they're all chatting and
Well,
with
it's
Holt. They're all
Gina and
compelling
Holt
leads.
having a
Oh yeah,
conversation.
Gina and Holt's next because which I think is smart on Holt's part because he quickly identifies Gina as being the one who's the most socially apt of the group, socially down to
Yes.
earth. So
Yeah. The ears and eyes of the department,
yeah,
and also
uh,
how I guess slimy. No, that's not slimy. What's
Gossip?
I mean, yeah, she's a gossip girl, but yeah, we'll go with gossip. He identifies pretty much her character as a whole really quickly based off of Terry's interaction and this.
hmm
Just builds more on Holt.
Doesn't seem like
um,
Gina's also a field work.
no, she's a civilian. She's one of their office
Um,
workers.
she's an administrator or something, right? No.
Administrative assistant, possibly. I think
Yeah.
that sounds right in my head.
They said what her job was. I didn't write it.
Yeah. Um, but that being said, again, Gina's comedy doesn't really land for me, but I label the scene as fine because it's good writing on Gina's part and good writing on Holt's part. Once again, just correctly reading who Gina is and where to get information from.
Yeah, it's good, and we learn the bet actually has stakes. I didn't think there was in the beginning, but now we know. A car and a date. A date that could move on to much bigger things, with or without clothes.
Oh, Springs, you got a point you'd like to jump to going
Yeah,
forward?
the door duty when
Hmm.
they meet. I don't know his name. I know Sinister would
Food
know his
guy.
name, but Portlandia guy. Um, and spelling his name Mlep Clay. It's like, did you say Clay? Yes, the Clay is silent. That was my second point of something funny in this pilot.
That one got you?
Yeah,
Why?
it's nonsense humor.
Okay. I mean, I guess that
It was
fits you, doesn't it?
it was nonsense here.
I mean that is a compliment. I forget. Sometimes forget what your like preferred type of humor is. Sometimes.
Usually, Sinister's is a nonsense humor. Different kind of degree, I guess, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Door duties. Crimson. Got any points on that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess they didn't technically really need it as a scene. It was more of uh, a way to utilize more humor. Like the weed thing was somewhat amusing. Obviously, the clay thing had humor involved. I really liked the guessing the Bachelor, the
Yeah.
hot Bachelor,
I'm
because the
detecting all
newspaper.
right all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
And again, I think that could have. I don't know if it is setup, but I feel like that newspaper could be a cool thing for like following forward. Like if in like episode 2 it had events of something for like a world building situation.
Did you read what it the newspaper said?
I did. I didn't write it down though. I don't remember.
Did it seem like something that would come
No.
back?
Well, it could come back, sure. It had nothing to do with the episode though.
Well, was it just like there was a car accident on Sixth?
No, I
Or
don't. Again, I don't remember.
okay,
I didn't write
I
it
didn't
down
read it.
because it wasn't relevant to anything going on.
Yeah,
That's fair. Um, yeah, this is very. There is a to describe the show. There is a plot, like a through line for the show, but it is a lot of one-off stories. So it's mostly with a very thin line that connect them all. But it's very episode centric storytelling.
and, something I found interesting with the names he gave himself and Santiago was detective right all the time. If you do right all the time, that spells out rat,
Oh,
which is interesting. And then terrible detective would just be TD. Don't have anything for that one.
that's funny.
TDDTT.
Well, detective wouldn't be the name; that would be the title, so it
Oh,
wouldn't be part of it. I abbreviated the names.
that'd be a
Fair
very
enough.
clever writing use if Jake is a rat at some point.
Oh yeah, going forward, I wrote his name as Rat. I stopped writing Peralta and wrote Rat.
That's funny. Uh, then the gang
Yeah.
have to go to the back to the 99. They're throwing around some ideas on how to solve the case, and Halt once again chides Jake for not having a tie. Only this time he's got
Oh,
one.
but he did the secret tie.
Yes.
So wouldn't that still have him tied in with the uniform then?
Tied in. Um, I guess
What
so.
do you mean? What did you say?
Well, the symbolism of the tie, right? if you have the tie on, you're part of the uniform, the group. So didn't he
Yeah.
cave into the demands then?
Uh, at least partially, yes. But obviously, the intent there is still to make fun of Holt. That he has a
Yes.
tie on him, he's just not wearing it properly.
And Santiago doesn't have a tie on either, which is interesting considering she looks up to Holt in this pilot.
Or Rosa.
Yeah, that's true. I was leaning more towards Santiago because she really likes Holt. But
Yeah. I
yes.
think it's honestly, I think it's part of why he's just focusing in hard on Peralta. The whole wanting to make him wear a tie because it's. I think most of the boys in the apartment have ties on. I don't know if there's anything to do with that, but that's just kind of a general
Mhm.
read that you can have of it. But I assume he's just coming on Peralta extra hard because Peralta is the problem child of the group, which is exasperated by his choice to not inform Holt of where they're going.
Yeah, sure that won't bite him.
Yeah.
There
Uh,
is a nice, very like blink and you'll miss it detail I caught that I liked, which is in the back left corner. I think when Jake stands up and shows the tie around his waist or whatever, there is a very vibrant rainbow color that really caught my eye. I'm like, what the heck is that? What I can identify of what I think it is, it's Terry playing with some kind of toy or mitts or something on him with his two daughters on a webcam because they're on the his computer screen.
that's cute. I like that. Good attention to
Yeah,
detail if that's true, because I don't remember that, but I believe you.
good for
That's
Terry.
that's part of Terry's motivation as to why he's not a field worker anymore.
Two kids.
Lost his edge.
Shot,
Uh,
shot the heck out of a mannequin. Could have been an innocent person.
I do like the way that Holt does chide everybody because they're all detectives and none of them can figure out why he wants them to all dress appropriately. Uh,
Yeah.
More setup, and we also get another hint that Holt is gay with the manscaping comment.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm not a good detective. I didn't pick up on it. I'm just like Jake.
I saw it as a throwaway line, so it was played fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have any issues with it being there.
But it does go with what Crimson said of like from earlier that 22-minute pilot and every second's pretty utilized. So that line was utilized. Like it's to call back on for a
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah, it's that's why I think it's a spoiler. I do think this is an effectively done pilot. There's a lot of things that they do really really well in terms of just laying the groundwork for the show.
I will neither
Mhm.
confirm nor deny. That's for summary.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna assume your opinion hasn't changed much since you've seen it last together. So,
Could be.
um,
And look at it with a critical eye.
Yeah, my objective eyes. I didn't go in first time with that.
Yeah. And then we have Jake figuring out how to track the killer through the ham and looking into who would buy or sell the ham and what was it, beneficios
yeah,
was the nearest place to the crime
because
scene.
Charles
Beneficios
knows all
Gourmet Market.
the yeah, and one of the characters we picked up on Charles by now is that he's really food smart. Like he's a foodie.
Yeah, so
And
it all
so that's why
culminated.
Charles is able to fill him in on the store.
Yeah.
And we get more of Jake trying to figure out the crime. His jump to assuming that I'm jumping a little ahead, but that Ratko was the killer was a jump to me because it could have been somebody else that worked there. It could have been a customer that overheard about the ham. There wasn't a lot of evidence, if any, pointing to Ratko as the killer, but he pretty much accused him of it with the recreation.
Yeah, and obviously I think the point of that, quote unquote, the intelligence part of that for Jake is to bait Ratko out.
Yeah, so it's definitely
Yeah, but I
playing in
don't
the
see much
comedy
reason
side.
for him. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
see much reason for
Well,
him to think it's Ratco though to try to do that.
yeah, we kind of just, as far as I remember, we kind of just go from him walking out with Charles to them already interrogating him.
Yeah, we don't know if Franco's the first one they even talked to.
Is he supposed to be the store owner?
I don't think they explicitly say that.
Okay, yeah, because
We
all we
know he
know is
works there.
all we know is Charles and him go there because they have a lead. They might have talked to the other employees, and we just ended up with him as the last one.
Oh yeah, but if he worked there and they did the same reenactments to other employees, then he wouldn't have felt threatened by it.
Yeah, but I mean, they could have asked other questions, and then the other employees, and they ended with Ratco because that was the one other employees pointed to for acting weird or odd, whatever. So there is.
It's
It's
a
one of
lot
those
of
things that I
assuming,
wish we were
though.
shown more. You know.
That's a lot of assuming. We don't get anything to really infer that.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. It's one of the weaker points of the plot.
Now that we're here, I will tackle the thing that I think could be a big issue, a big
Monumental.
stitch
All
in
right,
this problem. Um, but I also fear slightly that this could be a thing that I see as a big thing, and the both of you just kind of shrug it off. Um,
it's possible.
the Morgenthal's building door duty outside establishment shot with the lower third says it is 1:45 p.m. and we see that in this scene Jake is present. When they go to Beneficio's Gourmet Market, the time in the lower third is also 1:45 p.m. with Jake present.
Oh, we can just assume it's the next day.
I knew it would be shrugged off as that.
Yeah,
Shrugged
yeah.
off. Why can't that be the answer?
Could be the answer. It also could be why is it deliberately the same exact time used? What relevance does 1:45 p.m. have? Because if it is the next day, why couldn't it have been 2? Why couldn't it have been any other time for the afternoon to fit with the lighting?
Could have, but they didn't. It just comes down to their choice. We don't know why they chose it, but it doesn't contradict anything by them choosing it.
No, but there's got to be a
It's an
reason
interesting
for it.
choice. Maybe the editor really likes that number and they wanted to put it in twice. I don't know. We don't know. We'll never know. uh, so I can't answer your question because we won't know. I don't think it breaks continuity with anything. I don't think it's objectively flawed because they used it twice.
And it's easier to go with the assumption that it's the
Isn't it
following
better for
day
you?
rather than
You like it when it's used more than once.
this is a different example of what that means, Crimson.
What?
This
What do
is
you mean?
if you say I like that I caught it and that there's a reason behind it, like my own detective work, sure. That has got me this riled up about it. But you're saying it's easier to go with the assumption it's the following day rather than an editing issue or problem that it's the same exact time.
There's
Because
no reason to assume it.
I don't see an editing issue at all with how compact everything is in this pilot. That everything's used for a reason.
I didn't say it was an editing issue. I think it can be the next day.
Yeah, we have scenes to break it up. So it's not like 1 to 1, 1:45 cut. It's 1:45 again. There are scenes in spliced in between.
There are. It's not the same feeling of when we covered Tomb Raider with the phone call bit with the dude changing his mind.
No, because that was a character-driven uh, sequence requiring him to change his mind on something important.
Well, no, not that. Yes, in that instance, but this isn't anything to do with character here in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying with the difference between the comparison.
There's just gotta be an importance to that time.
Who
What
knows?
was the
Maybe you
time
have to
again?
watch the rest of the show. It's hour and 45 minutes, or 1:45 is what you said.
It's 1:45 p.m. in the afternoon.
Uh,
I mean, the simple logical one as to why they would why Jake and Charles would choose to go out at the time is that's the height of like people going to markets and stuff like that. So it's a fully public grocery store, so people are less likely to cause a scene. That would be the logical choice as to why they would go out at that point in time.
Or they
But
went out.
if you're,
uh,
I know your complaint is like the fact that they use the same time twice. Um, and like I said, I don't really have anything for that other than it's just the next day because it's logically probably what happened.
it's not impossible that that can happen in real life. Two events colliding at the same time. So
No,
I
no. This is
I
kind of
don't
give me
know
the
why you need to adhere to that.
this kind of give me the thought of we did last week with Relic Hunter again. Like the bowl situation we talked about. This isn't so much. It's believable in the world of a situation that occurred to the character, but it's the
You're talking
outside
about the choice. I get it,
usage of the
but we don't have
creators for the
answers.
show making it. They chose that.
Yeah, and we don't have answers. So I can't add more to it. Don't know if it was a directing choice, an editor's choice, a VFX decision. Who knows? We don't know anything except that they chose the same time twice. Or they had two different editors. One put in a time, the other one put in the other one. We don't know.
It was coincidental that they lined up.
Could be. It's not impossible.
I To be clear, Springs, this isn't an objective problem for you, right?
I don't know.
You
Problem's too
you
strong
just
of a
said
word.
in universe. You said in universe that makes sense or it's possible.
Yes, in
Uh,
in the given
and since
universe.
you don't know what happened in the real world, you can't attribute it being a negative because you don't know.
No, but it's a choice made. Editing choice
Or directing choice or
or
the
directing choice.
visual team
Yeah.
because that's different too. We don't know we don't have the information, so it wouldn't be fair, at least to me, to judge them on something you don't know anything on, other than they have two at the same time, which would still fit in the story.
Okay. Well, what this conversation has done, if anything, it has raised my subjective score.
Okay. I mean, this was your big question, so I want to actually have it covered. I don't want to pass it off. You're not done with it. Are you at a comfortable part with this point, or you want to keep going
I'm
with it?
comfortable with myself on the part of it. It's
All
just,
right.
huh?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
I
yeah.
don't. I don't know if there's a question I can ask. Right, writer, how much of the show have you seen?
5 seasons.
Okay. Is there any aspect of like ARG outside work for the show to work on, like a puzzle for the audience to play along with?
Um, what do you mean?
Like, are there hidden clues or codes in the show that outside you can work on to make something of like find a hidden episode or
Oh,
behind
I
the scenes stuff?
see.
Like
Um,
Fringe has hidden symbols in the episodes that you can spell out
yeah.
words that
Gravity
lead to the
Falls
next
has secret
episode.
I'm gonna
codes.
be honest. I don't know. I never bothered researching or looking for them.
Okay.
Uh, I don't typically watch my comedies to look for that. So that's interesting. If I rewatch the show, I'll probably look out for those.
I would think that would show up in your fact research, though, that there was an ARG involved.
Yeah.
So, okay. What's the angle you're going with that?
If that's to use for a code kind of thing, because writer brought up how they're kind of cemented single episodes and not like intermatching or overlapping plot lines and whatnot. So like I don't know, my thought over like the whole Charles Ty thing and brought up in conversation, like what was that indicated for more than a jab or just the jab? And then the newspaper outside the bachelor's door, was that a connection to anything? Why waste that newspaper for something, not needed when it could have been something stronger? And now the doubling of the time. So it's like so many like little details that are caught and it's like what's the instance of the reason why they're there in the first place and usage.
Interesting how you describe the newspaper as a waste. They use it for a joke. It has its purpose. But we passed the newspaper thing earlier. Yeah. Well,
Um,
I guess you can look that up and bring it up in the recap, Sprinks, if there was an ARG here.
Okay.
oh, all right. Uh, I actually take issue with the following scene, which is the Ratco trying to escape.
Hmm.
Um, Charles just kind of teleports in the background a couple times, and uh, I think it's a little. I get it; they're New Yorkers or Brooklyners, but they're very, very nonchalant about detectives having to walk around with guns in the shop.
Well, they make a joke with it with that one lady.
Yeah,
You're still here?
like seriously, yeah. I think that might be a little too much for me. It's definitely edging close because it's a funny joke, but I don't know how I feel about that in terms of quote unquote the world building.
Yeah,
So
it feels tonally right with what we have for the show.
yeah, I think
Uh,
the joke is well written. I just don't know how it affects the world building, if that makes sense.
yeah, because
It
we
seems a
still
little too
in
callous.
gen yeah, in general, we still have characters that act like normal people for the most part. So having these people not panic over uh, a gun wielding situation, even stern people would either want to help or leave, not just be passive and still be shopping.
Um, yeah.
Huh.
Uh,
This to me, another example we've covered. This is kind of like our before we go thing with the two kisses.
you're gonna have to make a connection for me.
Yes.
I'm not
Well,
following you easily.
First one, first one here of the lady not getting out of the way of an officer with a gun, not taking the situation seriously.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Don't really
Okay,
like
yeah, go
that.
on.
But however, they play this again later with the maintenance in the storage locker, which I think is better, but it's a connection to this first one shown. And it's both
Oh,
instances
with
where they're
the
different characters that it seems like the world of pedestrians and civilians don't take the police force very seriously.
that is
yeah, or they
something
just
they're
don't care.
kind
They
of
just want to get their
establishing
jobs and
here.
stuff done, which is,
Well, at
I
the
guess,
store, she was just a customer. She wasn't even an employee either. Um, they
there's
are kind
very
of
there.
setting a precedent by having it multiple times.
Yeah.
It's not
I
just like a
think
joke trait for one character either.
yeah, I think it's more of a at least the intention behind it is just people are going to go about their daily lives regardless of what the police do. If as long as you're not obviously a criminal.
Well,
Um,
it's the same thing brought up in Owl House, where I said a lot of the world building was sacrificed for jokes. It's the same thing here. The
mhm.
world building of the citizens not freaking out for the sake of the jokes of them not taking it seriously.
Yeah, I think the if I were to pick one that works, I think the maintenance worker at the end works better than the one here in the grocery store.
I'm in agreement.
Um,
Agreed. Which is what
uh,
Spencer's comparison to Before
Before
We
we
Go
go.
was, because
yeah,
he
yeah,
said
But I
the
think
I
second kiss was
understand.
better.
but you can see that
Uh,
because of this first one, it's the connection to the second one. It's not needed because of it, like before we go with the first making the second one better, but the second one I think could just stand out on its own. Like the maintenance worker could have just been fine by itself without the use of the one here in the
Agreed.
market.
The use of the one here is just to stop Jake from getting from one place to another quickly because she's in the way. So that's the in-universe reason, or why the writer's choice to have that kind of joke in there.
Okay.
Um,
Uh, I'll
but
I'll
yeah, so
label it as a world building issue, though. They
yeah,
sacrificed it for the joke.
yeah, I do label that as a minor world building issue, um, at least within the context of this episode.
That's true.
Um,
In the pilot. Now, what I didn't like. I think it's the thing I dislike the most in this pilot is the fact that they just let him go.
Oh,
There's
they
no
just
reason they stopped chasing him. Charles is in the food, and the guy darts to the left, and Jake runs up and just stands there like, "Well, he's gone."
yeah. It would have been nice to at least have them give chase and then lose him. That would
Yeah,
mean a little bit more.
I also
they just flat out gave up when he's right there. He couldn't have gotten more than like 3 yards.
Yep.
I also kind of say it that Charles kind of teleported to get put into the food. It just
Yep.
seems so quick.
That's yeah. That's one of the things I pointed out earlier. Is I think Charles teleports in the scene from place to place. He does end up in the food very very quickly.
Yeah, and especially after Jake told him to man the door, and he kept roaming around the store.
There's a shot here of when Jake's like behind the aisle and Ratko's throwing things towards him, but it's like the perspective of the camera and he's throwing stuff at the camera. It's a very quick shot of one thing hitting the camera before cutting away, but on the lens of the camera, there's already something on it, which tells me that he's been throwing things at the camera for a while and it's just been a long take, and this is the one clip they took from it. But there's already
Yeah,
residue on the camera lens before something even hits it.
yeah, that's not too surprising. Either they did multiple takes, or this was just a shortened long take. Wouldn't be surprised. Because if it's a shortened, extended take, then they wouldn't have had time to clean the lens off, which would explain why they didn't clean it. So that could be your real world explanation. They just cut down an extended version of it.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Okay.
Which I see as a
Then we get
I was going to say I see as a poor example of instances where like water usage, where like a camera you don't see the world look of what the audience sees, and then water gets on the lens, but it usually gets on the lens in a situation of a character jumping in a pool or ocean or what have you, um, versus already having water on the lens to begin with, kind of example.
okay.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
Spinks brought that up in the Willow show, I think.
Yeah. No, it sounds. I know we've had that conversation before, but yeah, I think I'm okay with that criticism. I think
Like it'd be weird if a character is inside a building and it's raining outside and we follow the camera going outside, but while we're inside looking at them, water's already on the
it's already
lens.
wet. Yeah. The other interpretation is to have it is just that he was already throwing things at the in that direction, so like the camera implies that it just wasn't the first thing that was thrown.
Yes,
But
I think
Yeah,
that's actually
I
lines
can't
up.
remember the
I don't
sequence.
think, yeah, I don't think it was the first thing that was thrown, but
okay.
Okay, then if that's the case, then I don't really have an issue with it. 'Cause, yeah, I don't remember the sequence. If he was already throwing before we got that POV, then yeah, he could have gotten wet.
Uh,
But I don't have anything else that the butchers.
Nor do I. There's just some plot issues, some world building issues. They're minor, but they are there. And then I guess we go to Jake and Peralta having sorry, that Peralta and Charles having to explain to Captain Holt that the murderer got away.
they got him ice cream.
They got him ice cream. I think
Non-melted
Holt.
ice cream.
Yeah, I think Holt's face is hilarious.
It's a good face. It says a lot.
The depth of what he has to deal with on his hands is finally sinking in.
My first day, I gave direct orders, and they were ignored
Second
again.
day, probably.
Second day. That's right. Ties have been ignored. That's something small, but this was a big mistake. Biggie.
I guess I didn't notice it.
Well, you know, it's the
Uh,
time.
No, I mean the face he gave. That you're saying
Oh,
is so comedic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I can't believe this. This is
It's
I have
a
to
it's
focus.
a it's a it's a serious person just in shock, pretty much is what it is. Um, and then he gets
The
assigned to records.
record duty. Do you think he found the RED file?
Oh, funny.
Ye-
Mind giving a
I
little
got that right.
context for me and the audience here? I don't know what that is.
what does RED stand for?
Red. Retired,
And
extremely dangerous.
There you go.
hey, there you go, audience. Sprinks said it for you. Yes,
uh,
for the movie Red.
yeah,
It's a
because he's
reference.
got assigned to records. I think one of my favorite scenes in this is the flashback for Halt catching the disco strangler.
I have a slight
Yeah, I think that's the
nitpick with
most
that.
out there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
go ahead.
definitely out of there for sure. But I think it's funny. Sprinks, you're saying?
Yeah, my slight nitpick with that is we see Holt coming up from the sewer line or wherever he is to apprehend the disco strangler, and the woman isn't making any signs of restraints or screaming or anything.
Distress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's completely silent.
Uh, I agree. No.
Oh, is it a flashback? Is it Terry picturing what it was like? And oh, we don't really know.
I
I
think
don't
if
know.
you're being strangled to death, you'd make noise.
Well, yeah, but if you're imagining things, you don't imagine every single detail of what you're picturing. So he could have just be seeing the heroism within Holt and then the strangler, and didn't really bother putting in the detail of the woman strangling in his vision.
Uh huh. Okay. See what you're saying. I'm not swayed.
Okay, well, I tried. I put something out there.
I don't.
No,
I'm like I said. I didn't look too deeply into that, so I fully admit that if it's supposed to be an accurate flashback, yeah, that's a problem. If it's not, I think it's fine as it is.
for the record, I do believe it's a flashback, not a Terry recreation of events.
Uh, and
Or
then
I guess it could have been Jake too if we were doing that.
yeah, could be Jake. Yeah, because now because he would know that case and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
uh,
The murderers we've let go board was good. I'm glad they integrated that. Uh, Ryder, do they keep that or is that just in this?
Murs they let go board.
Yeah,
I want to be honest, I don't remember. They do keep the bet going though.
yeah, I would imagine that. It'd be cool if they kept the murderers we let go, but I feel like that's more of a joke than a
Yeah, I
constant
think I think it.
integration.
Think I'm trying to remember. I think it's just a one-off joke for the pilot.
Don't mind. Okay,
Um,
but I liked it. Yes.
yes, it's funny, and I also like that Charles crashes and burns with Rosa. We get a funny. I think one of Gina's best jokes is the crashing and burning joke.
The thumbs up, the down. Yeah, it's I don't know, just all the interactions I liked, except for the butcher shop. So that's the outlier.
I mean, it's good to highlight the outliers. It's,
Yes,
and in a perfect pilot. So,
and
uh,
Rosa's very interesting because she got offended by saying she's opinionated. With the character we have of her, I don't feel like she would care if someone called her opinionated. But it's only the pilot. I don't
yeah.
know.
Uh, we also get later on that she still pays Charles back. She doesn't want him to waste money,
Oh,
which
she
speaks
sees
to
him
a
as
little
sweet.
bit. Yeah. Um, and I think I think we have Holt coming into the records room with Jake, complimenting him on his tie.
Yeah, everyone come in here. Bring a camera.
Yeah,
I admire
he's going.
Jake still finding ways to loophole around this situation.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, he's not going down without a fight.
uh, I agree. And obviously, it's set up to why he would eventually want to wear a tie.
Is that a constant going forward? Does he wear a tie?
The funny thing is, I don't remember.
A lot of incentive
I've
you're
been
giving
trying.
us to continue the show.
Yeah, no, I know. See, that one's a legitimate one though. Like, I legitimately don't remember
I
whether
feel like that
he's.
one's an important one to continue
Yes, I know.
since
So
there's a lesson.
I am gonna, if I have free time this weekend, I am probably gonna watch a few more episodes because I like
I'm
Brooklyn
like,
Nine
you could
Nine, and this
probably
is a.
tell by posters, right? Like season posters if he's wearing a tie.
That's true. You
That
probably
might
see
be an
that.
easier way to solve it.
Uh, Springs, did you have anything for this part? 'Cause
Uh,
I can talk about literally anything, so I don't want to steal your thunder.
no, I just I will say with this show, with its episode, I can see all the elements of humor and comedy used, even if they don't make me laugh. I can see the attempts of comedy um, where it is, and I applaud this pilot for having different forms of comedy and not stuck to the same um, uh, subtype.
Yeah,
Continually,
formula or whatever
yeah.
like that. Yeah, that's one thing I'll say the show overall does very well. I think they keep that blend of multiple facets of comedy in one show, and I think most of it still it retains the quality of this first episode. I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got situational
there's
humor, visual humor.
setup, punchline, nonsense.
Yeah,
And they do a good
that's
job
true
of
variety.
yeah.
Did
They come out
they
swinging with the pilot. So
did they do any background humor? I don't know if there was any background
Nothing that I saw.
not in this episode. There
humor.
is
Okay.
background humor that I definitely remember though. So yeah, you were saying about Jake finding
Well, yeah. With this scene, Jake in the
loopholes.
record room standing up and being in real tight swimwear. I'm like, I can see that's funny. I didn't laugh, but um, and then Holt
Certainly, somebody
immediately,
did. Yeah.
yeah, and Holt being very quick witted on finding a response of some way to go about situations. Even though
Yeah.
it seems he's always surprised or can get shocked by what Jake can pull. Um, he always has a way to uh, not one up but react.
Snap
Yeah.
back.
Holt's reactions are is what's been memed to death about the show because Holt has a very is very good at reacting to things. So that will also continue obviously throughout the rest of the show. And you're right, he is quick witted, and I think that's a good attribute to have to your captain, who's would be characterized as an overly serious character, but the fact that he bounces off Jake so well, I think, is a testament to the more lighthearted humor and wit that he has about him too. That's a little varied.
With Jake being assigned to the records room, would he have solved the crime as quickly or at all? Was all this information readily available on their computers?
I don't know because he complains that they have computers, but
Oh,
don't know
he
if
acts
all
like
the.
he's never been in the records room. Really, he knows of the record room. Obviously, it sounded like he hadn't really been with the record room.
Um,
The difference between
so
record room and computer, don't know, but I think the line
yeah,
used of that he really loves puzzles and he has all the puzzle pieces in this room to explain like the files he's looking through, I think help.
yeah. And to answer your question, Crimson, I will tell you right now, bureaucracy is what slows records being digitized.
That's what I was leaning towards. Was if the stuff he found in here wasn't on a computer, would he have been able to solve it? What was the fact that the plot pushed him to the record room? uh,
Oh no, I think if he
due to
was
his
on a computer, he would have
disciplinary
found it.
actions.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think if he was on a computer, he would have solved it too. I don't think there's
He could have solved it
that
a different
much.
way.
Yeah, it would have been solved in a different way, but obviously the records room is where he just happened to be set up to work because now that he lost his one lead, he has to chase down more.
Yeah, the red boot print wasn't even on the radar to begin with until it was brought up that he found a file.
Yeah, with the places that would have
Yeah,
the
so
dirt.
they weren't left with one leading clue kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't have anything else for the record room.
All right, then we shall move along uh, to their stakeout. Um, we learn that Holt is gay, and I think I find Peralta's revelation kind of funny. And all of it coming back to I keep saying kind of funny. I think it's clever setup. There we go. That sounds more
Mm.
Oh, I had to bite my tongue.
smart.
Um, this to me is how you do the reveal of a gay character with comedic undertones well, especially in a very short time frame. That an
Oh, you're gonna compare
example
this to
of
Betty?
Love You Beth Cooper did horrendously.
It's kind of different. See what you're going for. Uh,
Um,
I think Holt was very well done. I think the only thing I was missing with uh, the reveal was Santiago's reaction. Whether or not she figured it out herself or she was also surprised, we didn't get anything off of her in regards to it. She didn't really react. She didn't say anything. It was all focused on Jake, and I feel like that was a missed opportunity with her. Well, and I think maybe an objective issue that she didn't react to in any fashion because
yeah,
it was a
even if
reveal.
she didn't react to Holt, she should have reacted to Jake. Is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, there was something missing with her there. She was in the car. She heard everything. She saw reactions. Uh, with him, with Jake being like, "Oh, I didn't know that. Must be a bad detective," and she would jab at him. She'd make fun of him for that. Well, it was so obvious. You didn't pick up on that,
Yeah,
but she
I'm in
was
Yeah,
agreement.
silent. She didn't do
you going
anything.
with Jake, I would agree with.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. So I suspect she does know, but that's because of future character stuff within the individual uh, episode here. I think it's she should have jabbed at Jake just to inform the audience retroactively that she had already figured it out.
Yeah. Mm.
Um,
Yeah. Other than that, though, the flashback reveals. Well, whether or not the paper was visible, because I didn't go back to look. Right, you're saying it was kind of blurred, not very
it's there.
legible.
It just doesn't ever zoom in on it. So like
Yeah.
when Holt and Terry are having their conversation, looking at the rest of the detectives, you can see it behind Terry in the room. As I think that was one example.
The detail
So it's
prop set
there.
pieces
They just don't
present.
focus on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just don't
Yeah,
focus on it.
props there. I don't know if it's readable, which is what I would want to go look at it. Because it would be cool if it is readable. That way, you can actually deduce and find all the clues. Because you could take the very first line that Gina says as a hint and be like, "Oh, okay, he's gay." It's a setup. You could probably do that, but it would be cool if you could find every piece,
Which
and
is
if every piece
why
was readable.
I kind of brought up the ARG. Like, how smart is this show?
Like I said, you're making me want to rewatch it because I'd be curious to find out.
Is there more than just the funny ha-has of a sitcom?
There can be,
Mm,
there can be for sure.
and we get more on how much Jake either wants to push back on Holt or just his general knowledge of being a cop in regards to the patrol guide. We know he's read it. Uh, what we don't know is if he's always known it or he read that specifically to get one on Holt with the no dress code for stakeouts. But it does say a lot about him, whichever option you believe it to be under. A lot.
Funny enough, I typically subscribe to the fact that he's a good detective and he just knows it. It's the one I subscribe to, but you do learn about him regardless of what he lengths he's willing to go to despite Holt, just for the sake of a joke, jabbing at him. Well, I guess I'll give my bit on the reveal that uh, Holt is gay. I like that all the setup is there. Um, I so I guess the difference between the Betty Cooper example and this example for me is Betty Cooper example is repetitive. Um, well, this one is not. So you're getting all the hints in a different way for this one. Whereas in Beth Cooper, it's not about uh, necessarily a reveal that he's gay. It's just everyone already knows he's gay, except for the main person.
Yes, the reveal is to himself,
Yeah.
which is interesting. Yeah, but Beth Cooper is a lot more overt with it. They make a joke in this, and like I feel like it's pretty obvious or whatever, right?
Yeah,
When it's in reality not that obvious.
yeah, because we see Holt and we obviously don't get a gay vibe.
Yeah, hence the reveal.
Hence the reveal. Uh, and I guess we're kind of down to our last bit here of going in the storage container area. So, uh, anyone got points to make on that?
Already talked about the
Um,
maintenance worker.
Hmm.
we did do that. Could no. I'm
I'll
taking it too seriously. I won't bring that up.
I'll
uh,
touch on the tie stuff for Jake. I quite liked it because why he figured out or how he figured out why ties are important to Holt. Uh, and it's a really nice little thing. I approve because now
yeah, its integration's a little for me.
yeah,
That it was
it
during this whole put it resting bit, but
yeah.
they were running
Well,
out of time.
the clue to him to kind of finish it up obviously was the fact that Holt was gay, and that's why he figured it out. And we also get a lot of Holt too as to why he feels so seriously about rules and orders. He doesn't want to screw up his first command because that's all he's ever wanted. So we get a lot of good character stuff here in between the jokes.
Indeed, we do. Let's see what. Yes. So I'm curious if you guys think this or not, but Holt is aware about the bet and how Jake is interested in Santiago, and there's a little bit of flirting going on here, and I didn't know if Holt would be the type of character to be okay with it, being Mr. Rulebook follower,
I think he'd be
like
okay with it in moderation.
fratern, yeah,
Yeah.
fraternizing with coworkers,
Um,
that type of thing.
I'm gonna be honest. That's not really a hard rule. Coworkers are allowed to fraternize as long as they're not doing it like it. Uh, you know, as long as it doesn't interfere with their jobs. I don't think Holt's gonna care.
It's not a hard rule, but it is a rule that I think he would enforce because he enforces everything, at least in the pilot. I don't know.
I don't know. I think if it became a
Something I wrote down.
problem, then he would.
I mean, because he doesn't stop Jake from being childish at work. He doesn't really interfere with their personalities and stuff like that. So I don't see that crossing over into the romantic stuff. As long as they get their jobs done, I think that's when he comes down as the rules follower thing. So like them not informing the captain they were going out, I think is why they got punished. But as long as again they don't interfere with work, I don't think he minds. So
Okay, well, since you've seen it, is there a time where it does interfere with work and he doesn't do anything about it?
um from my memory, they do a good job of it not interfering with work. So he never has to crack down on it. He might, but I don't remember strictly speaking.
Okie dokie.
And if so,
Uh,
that would be a later situation, not a now situation.
Yes, that
yeah,
would
not
not
in that
be here.
situation. But it is interesting to think about with how Holt is characterized in this situation. But we see that he's willing to crack jokes too. I mean, it's like he just does door duty, as a callback joke when they're in the storage area. So obviously he's a rule follower, but he's not like hardline.
I mean, he's also not afraid to humiliate them in a joking manner. It's the speedo bit
Yeah.
in the filing room where he tells everyone to come in.
Yep.
He can make jokes, but it's also a way to humiliate them and maybe get them in line going forward because he did want Jake to take things more seriously. That is
It's true.
something he's going for.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know if I'm as far with how he's contextualized in this episode. I don't think he's would go as far to, I guess, stop people from fraternizing at work. I don't get enough of that in the first episode to see it that way. There's just enough wit and light humor there to kind of avert that sort of strictness.
All right.
And I
Um,
guess with that, are there any final thoughts on the episode?
Thanks.
Um, not that I have.
Okay,
Alrighty.
I got something.
Oh,
It is during the storage unit bit where Jake opens up the unit, and I found that quite dumb of him considering he's supposed to be smart. And I wrote in my notes, how is he still alive? How, with how um, laid back I guess he is in these scenarios. Because why wouldn't you wait for your backup to open that? He thinks he's in there. Why wouldn't he have a gun pointed out? And he even does get a gun pointed at him. What? Nothing stops him from just shooting him. He shot a guy over Ham. it he didn't. It doesn't make sense to me
That's a
why he
really
just
good
opened it by
point.
himself.
Especially a
I
storage
think
locker would be a dead end.
it's very stupid. I think even for if we're like, yeah, don't take the show too seriously. I think it's even too far for
yeah,
that.
yeah. Best faith interpretation is he just knows his group's around the corner, so he's willing to just bide his time.
I mean, he does know
Um,
all their locations of angles.
yeah.
Yeah, but he could still
Especially
have
when they come around the
just been
corner. But obviously,
shot.
obviously that's just that's quote unquote seconds away. So he has to deal with has to be happy with Ratco not pointing a gun at him and trusting the fact that he's sane enough that shooting a police officer will make things infinitely worse with him. Which there is that angle, but I'm kind of in agreement with Crimson that it is definitely a facet of it.
Yeah.
It might be a little too much.
Yeah, he's a cornered animal at this point. And that's when people are most drastic.
Also, they split up and he knows where everyone is.
That's also true.
But
How
they
do you
didn't
know
know
where
where he
y'all were?
was. So what? There was no coordinated trap.
No.
Yeah, they're also the only ones making noise in the storage area. So I don't have an issue with them everyone grouping up quickly.
No, I don't have a problem with that either. Of knowing that his teammates are around, but knowing exactly like that's on left, that's on right, Holt's
Well,
behind you,
who's in which direction as well?
especially if they
It's not
split up.
just oh there's people over there, people over there, people over there, but he knows which people are in which direction.
Yeah,
Yeah, he calls them all out by
is that to
name.
play that Jake knows everyone's like walking pattern?
Their gate.
No, I think he just knew
No.
how the standard procedure after everyone in because he knows Rosa and Charles will be coming in from a certain angle. He knows the angle they came in the aisles they have to search together and how they might coincide because they might have looked at a map earlier place. So I don't have any issues of them showing up, and I think the fixated point of him uh, opening the storage locker by himself that might be an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to label that as a Hmm. It could be plot armor, or it could be Jake being stupid. And uh, I'm think I'm angling
Could be both.
towards it could
Yeah, I
be
was gonna
both.
say I think it might be both.
Might be a little bit of both. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I like Santiago using the baton to strike at his knees to take him down, going for the joint.
yep.
It's good.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
And again, it's reinforcing that she has the need to act tough, and she gets to kind of prove it a little bit.
yeah. Put the hot sauce on the burritos. Didn't really
That
talk
was
about
it
that.
was a sub sandwich, but yes, it was
Oh,
good. It was quite
food.
funny. All right. Well, with that, gentlemen, are we wrapped up here for uh, this episode? We can move on to ratings.
Oh yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
All right. Uh, Crimson, why don't you start us out?
No. Sure. I'll start with my subjective. Probably guess based off how I've been talking, it's going to be relatively high. A lot of the jokes were good. None of them like made me laugh out loud, but usually I don't laugh out loud by myself watching stuff, so that's not really a big marker for humor for me.
Mhm.
But a lot of it was pretty good, and it's something I definitely wouldn't mind seeing more of. Maybe I will see it on my own. Maybe I'll watch it with a writer. I don't know. We already
Well,
have a list of things to watch together.
that's true.
uh, but I'm certainly something I'm willing to go further into. So subjectively, I'm giving it a 7.5. I can see me really enjoying it based off that pilot. Objectively, there was a lot of praising involved with a lot of how the jokes are set up, the variety of the jokes, uh, the character interactions, specifically with me with Jake and Santiago, did a great job setting up their relationship that I would imagine would continue and flourish to be beautiful. Uh, Holt's introduction and his reveal were both very well executed, and the dynamics everyone has with him. We don't get to see everyone have direct interactions with him. Uh, like, does Rosa talk to Holt at all? I don't
Not in
think
this
she
episode. No.
does. Yeah. So not everyone interacts with him, but the ones that do, they're good. Like we brought up Gina kind of being on the lower end of the totem pole with her, but her interaction with him was the best interaction to me with her. Uh, so everything revolving Holt uh, was very well done. The motive for the crime, and I sat on it. Is it objective? Is it subjective? And I'm going to say it's subjective because even as lame and wet noodle as it is still possible for someone to break in to steal ham and end up killing someone. I think it's very weak for a pilot of a police show. Even if the crime is supposed to be like the background story, while the main part is establishing characters, you can still have a good crime going on that's interesting, but that's not objectively bad because of that. Throwing that out there in acknowledgement. The butcher scene with Ratco, I think writer's going to take most of it from it, but my biggest complaint is them just letting him go for no reason whatsoever. I think that's pretty bad. And the, one more bad thing because I couldn't more towards hinting my score. Couldn't find that many issues with this. Santiago's lack of reaction to the Holt slash Jake reaction to the gay reveal kind of goes hand in hand because she definitely would have done something. Either she would have reacted about Holt or she would have reacted to Jake's reaction to Holt. Something should have happened and we got nothing from her. And that is objectively wrong with the character we have with her. She would definitely say something. So I'm going to give this an 8.5. And who knows, recap, maybe I'll raise it. I'll leave it there.
All right. Springs,
that's me. Oh,
that'd
okay,
be
I'll go
you.
next. Okay. My subjective originally started at a 6. However, I mean, I guess that's also it started at 6 because I'm like, it's a fine show. There's two things I smelled at. It's okay. I wouldn't complain watching a whole season, I guess, but it's not really something I think I'd ever call a favorite. at least right now in this point in my life. The fact that it raised is because it makes me want to do like detective work for a detective show outside of it, which is the little fun like game that it could give to audience of like try to figure something out that's not to do with the show or could be anyway. So I'm like that. With how invested I got in that, and made it rise. So it's at a 6.5. Objectively, I think the use of multiple different types of humor in it is very well done because then you could probably get at least one joke hit to a multiple amount of audiences for a comedy. I think all the acting is really well done for all the characters and fits to their characters of what's given to them. I think the writing's very tight. Well, writing, editing, pacing, um, and I guess world building. I feel all four of those hand in hand are very tightly done in the amount of time we have, and they work in unison to really convey a whole story in the 22 minutes. There are little bits of here's and there's that I think don't make it like a perfect 10 in that aspect for those, but I think it's still really firmly done. I really like the transitional usage and editing that sound like a walkie-talkie about to go off. Just that little sound effect added in to give the cop feel of the situation going on. I like the little background detail I picked up about Terry interacting with his kids, so he's not just like gone from a scene; he's still barely present, which gives life to the precinct that we see in scenes. I think the lighting's very well done, a lot of natural lighting, and I don't know if that could affect the whole time situation because the market maybe had windows and like, okay, so we gotta set this because of this kind of thing. And then the nighttime shots were still very illuminated, like the stakeout in the car. I think there was enough light there to we were able to see all characters. Jake did have to lean forward, which could have been an artificial lighting of the set, but still looked good to me. Um, let's see, cinematography usage. It could be that edited one because it seems more milder of the handheld that more modern kind of comedies do or sitcoms do. Uh, One of my favorite shots is the corner shot of like a security cam in the market, and it looked like I don't know what they're called, but the corner like mirrors to like see around corners kind of look. So it's like a fisheye lens of a camera up at that angle. I did really like that. Um, yeah, I think the little touches I have is like the time thing could be the character I talked about of Jake's situation of how he goes about things. How much is laid into just a comedy bit and how much is laid into the smartness of like how it's written and made. So like those uncertainties have me questioning, and I know I probably establish more of a cement feeling continuing with the show to get more out of what they do. But for now, I have it at an 8.
All right, and I guess that leaves me. I will start with my subjective. I think I hinted to it earlier. The only sense of humor that doesn't really work for me in terms of my enjoyment is Gina. So I tend not to like most of Gina's scenes. Even though I might love all the interactions she has with all the other characters, I just don't like her sense of comedy. Um, she's a very minor role in this episode. I do like her interaction with Holt, as Crimson pointed out. She is on the lower tier for me. Um, that being said, this kind of humor is right up my alley. I don't. I also didn't really laugh out loud the first time I watched this, and I still don't really laugh out loud right now. But I do find myself smirking and smiling throughout a fair majority of it. So I still enjoy the show. Still enjoyed the pilot. Subjective 8. Quite liked it. I am going to probably watch it again at some point. Uh, it's tons of fun. Objectively, um, there's not really much to say in terms of the weakness in the plot is usually it can be attributed to the case that they're solving. We don't really sure why they're linked to that person specifically at the Ratco. Um, Ratco. That sounds just like that sounds right. Um, We're not really sure as to their link specifically as to why they found him. Um, they're to kind of extrapolate that isolated incident out a little bit further. There are issues like that that are here, but they tend to be very minor and far in between. With Ratco just being the obvious one of the quick jump that they made, there was no throwaway line as to how they got there, why him specifically.
Shoot, I forgot to
Uh,
say that. Agreed.
yeah. uh, I had some issues with some teleporting characters. They're minor. I find Charles is more egregious than Jake's in the beginning, because Jake's in the beginning is just different take potentially, whereas here, Charles was physically in a different place to get thrown into gelato or ice cream, um, which it leads into the joke as to why they bring ice cream to their captain. I think the comedy overall is extremely well written. Um, even though obviously some of it doesn't work for me, but I think there's a lot of layers to it. I quite enjoy it. Quality is there for sure. Uh, I was going to go on to world building. Yeah, world building issue slash. No, I already got the world building. Plot. Plot is what I need to talk about. So plot would be Jake's got a bit of plot armor. We discussed that at the end. As Crimson pointed out, I think that is plot armor, and I think I will attribute that at least a little bit to Jake. Uh, might be playing up the not caring aspect a little too much to the point of unrealism, or the point where it can be almost unrealistic. Though obviously there's not much to be realistic about in this show. It's just a little too much. Um, and going into characters, we don't get much of Terry or Jeffords, but he's the leader of the group, and we get a little bit of a sense of how he reins the group in, because he knows all his detectives very, very well, and that he lost his edge having kids, uh, after having kids, and Spriggs caught the detail in the background of him talking to them. Gina is kind of the social expert. We get that with Charles constantly going to her for advice, with Holt having to talk to her as well. Um, she also drops the first hint at Holt being gay, so good setup. Uh, Charles isn't super characterized in this, but we obviously get the sense that he works a lot with Jake, with him just bouncing off of him for the role play in front of Ratco. We get him being socially awkward. He's obviously crushing on Rosa. Uh, he's not brilliant, but he's a hard worker. Uh, and he deals with a lot of his situations fairly well. Um, and we don't get much for. We don't get. I'm going to say it a lot because unfortunately I've seen the show. Rosa is deadly serious most of the time, but she's not all the time. So it's not like she doesn't have a sense of humor, but she's just serious when as she is most of the time. But I think an example of how we know she can be unserious is obviously she's the one participating with Jake for the fire extinguisher derby. She's tough, smart, can be hard to read. Funny enough, I have listened to her character traits. She hates Citizen Kane. Um, but she's honorable in stand up. We see this in the fact that feels bad that Charles spent all that money, so she pays him back, and manages to maintain her aloofness throughout the course of the first episode. So there's nothing really character breaking about her for in simplicity. Um, Santiago is serious. She hates to lose, as we see. Likes the captain. She's very competitive. Likes to prove she's tough. And she's learned to kind of tune Jake out, which is what we get in the car between their interactions. The only nick into her character is that she didn't react, but that's me repeating what Crimson said, so I'm not going to say any more on that. Um, we have Raymond Holtz, who's kind of, at least in this episode, funny enough, the straight man when it comes to being a police officer. He's not necessarily a strict rule follower, uh, but he definitely does try to enforce at least the base rules. He wants everyone to wear neckties, and it's a thing for him that it's kind of wants to everyone be in a uniform. He sees Jake as a problem child and wants to start with him and helping him. He's very observant. He has clearly a long history in the Force, and even his interaction with Terry in his office implies that history. Um, but there's a lot of setup here, and I think he's the character we get the most clarity on. I think by the end, from start to finish, like he's the one that gets the most revealed about them, because he starts as a bit of a aloof mystery, but we understand at least his perspective with why this job is very important to him by the end, and I think there's a lot of good setup that goes into that. Uh, Jake, very smart, uh, likes making references, tries to bring a lot of fun to the work environment. Um, as Terry puts it, he's the best detective of the group. He enjoys his job, can't figure out how to grow up, which I think is his biggest flaw, his immaturity, quote unquote. Um, but they play a lot. They play around with that, and he doesn't take the tie thing seriously until the end of the episode when he figures out why it's important to his captain. The only real nick in his character is, I think, again pointed out by Crimson at the end. I think is the going in by himself. I think it's a little too much considering we know he doesn't take things seriously, but it's it it almost makes him dumb with the choice to do it, and I think that's why it's damaging. Dumb is not the right word. It almost makes him stupid because it's damaging. And I think with that all said, this is a very good pilot. One of the better pilots that I've seen overall in just my general experience of TV. I'm also at an objective 8.5.
Ooh.
That did go down from a 9. I should look it up.
Oh,
Oh, what lowered it? Was it Jake's
I
ending bit?
yeah, I think the Jake's ending bit is what kind of lowered it for me, and I think you got me a little bit on the Santiago thing, not reacting. I remember writing that down on my notes, and I just forgot to mention it. But I think it was worse now the more I've thought about it.
Hmm.
Um, all right, that was Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Do you have any final questions or statements, gentlemen, before I read us out?
this
No,
concludes the second third of this season.
Yeah,
sure.
3 more to
we're now
go.
2/3 of the way in. Yeah. All right. Well, audience, thank you for listening, whether it be Spotify, Anchor, Amazon, Castbox, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Samsung, and iHeartRadio. And if you happen to be on our visual side of things, watching our PNG tubers, be it YouTube or Rumble, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe everywhere. Tell us how much you hate our opinions or how much you love them. As always, I have been a Geeky Writer,
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Springs.
and we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Bye.
Toodaloo.